any number of positions, professional positions, positions that were once in really great demand because of the economic downturn. So I know a number of departments are reevaluating those exact kinds of dilemmas that they've faced in the past. Okay. And what they're seeing is not what they saw even 6 months ago. I understand that, Supervisor. I'd be happy to hear from other supervisors on the same thing, because if it's the wish of this board that the Covelo resident positions not be filled, then so be it. They won't be filled. However, I assure you there's Covelo residents who are extremely apprehensive of being told that no resident deputies will be assigned to Covelo. Understood, but that's not within our purview to decide where deputies are assigned. No, so that's your purview, and we have to give you the budgetary framework in order to make those difficult decisions. Understood, and I have 3 vacant positions with the sheriff's office. So with your direction, and I guess you've already said we can go ahead and fill those 2 positions. So I very much appreciate your response. Thank you, Supervisor. Well, I'll get on to other concerns as we move forward.
Yeah, at some point we're going to take these issues separately, the animal control positions and the deputy positions. I think I have 2 totally different feelings on. Okay. Supervisor McCowan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's been suggested that asset forfeiture funds could be used to offset certain expenses in the department, such as vehicle purchase, the jail remodel, even though that's already been accomplished. It's been suggested to me that we could go back and possibly apply some asset forfeiture to that. I know there's different guidelines between state asset forfeiture funds and federal, but could you please give us some information on that?
I'd be happy to, Supervisor McCowan. And this morning we had an opportunity, you and I had an opportunity where you gave me a document referred to asset forfeiture funds use as state guides. And these are actually federal guidelines.
Well, that wasn't my notation on there. So.
Well, I'm glad this did not originate from you, Supervisor McCowan, because something very, very either tragic or purposeful happened with whoever prepared this guideline. I took it from you, and fortunately I had my lunch period to read it, and when I read this guideline that you gave me, it goes from page 10 to page 11 to page 12 to page 13 to page 15, and page 14 is missing. And I actually have several copies of page 14 because I have the guideline at my office. And I'm not upset at you, Supervisor. I'm upset at whoever prepared that, because they purposely, and I'm saying this, they purposely left out page 14. And page 14 is a thing that keeps you and I out of prison, federal prison. And my doctor says I'm allergic to prison. I don't want to go back or go. I've visited once.
You learn something every day.
Let me read page 14 and a paragraph to you. And this is very important. And I would ask all supervisors to listen to page 14. I have copies for you. On page 14, under section B, under increase and not replace, sharing must be, and they're referring to federally asset seized money. Sharing must be used to increase or supplement the resources of the receiving state or local law enforcement agency or any other ultimate recipient agency. Shared resources, and it's underlined here, 4 words, shall not be used to replace or supplant the resources of the recipient. In other words, the receiving law enforcement agency must benefit directly from the sharing. If, for example, a small police department receives $100,000 in federal sharing money only to have its budget cut $100,000 by the City Council, the police department has received no direct benefit whatsoever. Rather, the city as a whole has received the benefit of the equitable sharing. The Department of Justice may terminate sharing with law enforcement agencies that are not permitted by their governing authorities to benefit directly from the equitable sharing. And I think that the word supplanting is bolded in that paragraph for a very specific reason. And Supervisor McCowan, before you were on the board, the Sheriff's Office was doing everything we possibly could to assist with the cost of operating the jail in so much as, and the microwave, in so much as between 06 and 08, the Sheriff's Office spent $246,000 in federal money with a court-ordered jail remand. A court-ordered jail remand was a responsibility of the county. But I was sheriff at that point, and I transferred $246,000 because the county didn't have the money. And so now we're in a situation where I guess the word subplant is going to come into play. And what is subplant? The county, during the current budget year we're in right now, bought a $50,000 generator for the jail because the jail's generator is old and it's not working. And we have a mandate to make sure that we have a safe and humane and comfortable location for our inmates. And so the question that I had is, and I asked this during lunch, could we pay for a generator out of asset seizure? I was asked a question in response to that, and it said, if we had zero money in federal asset seizure budget, would the county have purchased a generator for the jail? Well, the answer is yes, because our generator is broken. We have to get the new generator in there. And so if we were going to purchase it anyway, how can I legally and morally and ethically tell you that we're going to use asset seizure money to purchase something that the county was in a situation where they had to purchase anyway? We use our asset seizure money for as many causes as we possibly can, and up to, and I'll quote Supervisor Smith's words this morning, the very essential public safety microwave system that we now have. Our GSA director has said she'll have some numbers for me, which are $205,000 that we spent last year of asset seizure money for the microwave system. And so it's not like we're hoarding this money and say we can't spend it, but I think that if we try to stay within the boundaries of the law, all of us are going to benefit, and we're going to be able to continue using it. But I don't want the federal government to come in and say we've misused money and it's been misappropriated, and now we're no longer going to be allowed to participate in the equitable sharing. So I would be happy to sit down with you, Supervisor McCowan, and discuss with costs that we've already had, some of the costs that we may want to think about. Well, the first cost that came to me was vehicles. We've spent almost $300,000 in the last year to replace Sheriff's Office vehicles. Some of these vehicles had upwards of 150,000 miles, and they're not vehicles that we want deputies to respond in Code 3 because they've shown their life. But with that almost $300,000, those costs came from the vehicle replacement fund that the Sheriff's Office has already paid into. Over the years of accumulating mileage, we've paid into the vehicle replacement fund. So on one hand, I'd be able to say, yes, let's put money from asset seizure into the vehicles, but then I'd say if we did that, the money that we've already used to pay vehicles, which is Sheriff's Office Vehicle Replacement Fund, would have to go back into the replacement fund. So there are some ways that we could work on this, and I'd be happy to sit down and use our combined brain power to work on it. But there's not $1.1 million that we can say, here's the money and the budget's going to be okay without breaking the law. It's that simple.
Well, thank you, and I appreciate the response. I would say that I think it's, we can identify that page 14 was missing. I don't think we know enough to say that there was some motivation attached to that. I don't know what the source of the information was that I got, so I don't know who put it together and didn't leave and left out page 14, whether that was inadvertent or purposeful. The key point here is that I do clearly hear you saying you do want to cooperate in identifying ways that asset forfeiture funds can be used appropriately. And I understand that those funds can't be used to supplant your normal operations. But I think that if, to the extent that we may be somewhat unclear or uncertain, I think we could certainly ask clarification from people who are in charge of enforcing these guidelines, what is appropriate and what is not.
I agree.
And also, we're not going to get the $1.1 million from any single source, but every step closer to the goal is going to be helpful. In that regard, have you been able to identify any other areas within your operations where you think you have additional savings that you could offer?